Canal Sidings. This is video number 9, and it follows on from the turntable, the wagon turntable from the last video, which I can't make any more progress to until I get my bit of copper clad board, which I then want to make the new turntable out of, and then everything else has to be aligned to the turntable, so that has to come first. So what I'm going to do before that arrives is I'm going to prepare this board, which is a right hand board, for some of the black plastic hard road bed, which I've already put right along the other board. And I need to put it all the way along here, down here, under that arch, and all the way along here, as far as we can see. And I shall take this off as well. Unfortunately, I can't just take all of the cork off, because this viaduct sits on the cork, and if I take it off, it's going to drop down and not be level anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the cork around this so that I leave a piece underneath it. So I'm going to have a go at that right now. Okay, now that has marked out the footprint of where the viaduct is, just here. And what I now need to do is remove everything except what's inside there. So I'll just mark this as needing to keep it. I know you normally mark it as scribbled out means I don't want it, but I do want this piece. And I don't want to make a mistake and lose it. A couple of things in case you're wondering. One is, what is this here? It's just the foot of my tripod, so that I can get the camera to look down here and I'm not in your way all the time while I'm doing something. And the second thing is, what's this that I wear on my head? It's just a headband magnifier. I've got pretty awful eyesight, so I tend to wear it all the time I'm modelling, and I flip it up and down as required. So sometimes it will be down and I'll be looking through it, sometimes it will be up and I won't be looking through it, but I tend to wear it all the time whether I need it or not. Just saves me losing it. Okay, so the next part of this is to remove all of this, for which I need to cut all the way round it. I should do it in sections so that I don't go and tear things up, but I need to cut all the way around it and then start to lift it off. So I'll do that next. Well, that's some tough glue holding that cork down. You may have seen the struggle that I had with the board moving as I was trying to actually get it off. So I'm not going to I'm puffing a bit. I'm not going to film the next bit of getting this piece of cork off, which does appear to be very, very well stuck down. I'm going to just do it and then I'll be back. Right, finally I've managed to get off most of what I wanted to start with. I've still got to sort out exactly what I'm going to do here, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But this is the island left that the viaduct goes onto, and it sits there, pretty much there. Yep. And it's got cork all the way around. Luckily it's 5mm thick material, so it's it has become very easy. If I cut the cork a bit too far, it's not going to matter. Excuse me, have a sip of tea. I'm quite exhausted after getting this cork off. This is just cork stuck down with PVA on top of dry emulsion paint, and I cannot believe how it's stuck. As you can see, there's still most of the cork and the paint left. Sorry, the cork, all the paint's left. Most of the cork and the PVA are left. Anyway, let's talk about what's going to happen here. If we take a typical vehicle, it's got to be able to get from coming along at that angle from the other board, and it's got to be able to get under there and then off the other side, and it's got to be able to do that preferably without the guide wire that's in the road crossing the rail here. I don't mind if the wheels cross the rail, but I don't want the guide wire to cross the rail. It could be a bit worrying if the wheels cross the rail, because they might actually try and tramline in it, but that's something we're going to have to test later. The other thing that I've got to take into account is that just here somewhere I want a gate, so that normally this siding is gated to the trains. It'll have a fence along here, and there'll be some kind of fence here, and there will be a gate across there, something like that. Now when that gate opens, it will come all the way around to here and will stop the vehicles from getting in. So I'm limited as to where I can take the vehicles in, because they've got to get in through wherever the gate ends up, having turned round from there, because the gate will be motorised. I intend to do all of that as well. It will be servo driven. Not one for making it too easy on myself. Anyway, so that's what I've got to do, and I've got to work out exactly how I'm going to get that through there. When it gets through to the other side, to this side, then I want to move away from the railway so that the vehicles can run along here and miss the turntable and disappear off into the end. But if the gate is closed and a vehicle comes along here, it's got to be able to stop to allow the train to go past it, because once the gate is blocked across the road and opened, it suggests that there is a train coming. It's an indication there's a train coming. And the road system has got to be integrated with that, because bear in mind, I've said before that the road system is going to run completely randomly and autonomously. It won't be controlled by me, it will just run. But it still has to fit in with what goes on up here with the railway, with the turntable moving, and with this gate being open or closed, and with a train coming through. All of that has got to be included in the software that drives the vehicle system. But the first thing I've got to do is get a vehicle system that will actually run backwards and forwards along the railway completely reliably, and that's what I'm trying to work out first. So that's where I am. I'm going to go away now and have a good think about this, try and come up with exactly where the gate's going to be, exactly what angle it needs to be turned around to, and then take out more cork as necessary to get the roadway bases into position. I've also got to work out what size the roadway bases are going to be. I can't use 2mm stuff here like I have elsewhere, because I need the top of the roadway to be at the top of the rail, and the bottom of the roadway has got to rest on the baseboard. Up there, top of the rail didn't matter, I just used 2mm. So there's going to be a slope here, because I think that's 4mm above the baseboard. I'm not absolutely sure, but I think it's 4mm. Let's give it a quick measure before I close this part of the video. Get me vernier calipers and measure it. Maybe I can. Locked. Okay, as near as I can do it. Oh, nearly 5mm, 4.75mm. So, yes, that is going to be quite a challenge to sort that out. So I'm going to go away and do a lot more working out now, and I'll be back with some more soon. Okay, so I went away and had to think about how I was going to do the roadway, and I started by filling in between the rails of this track. And what I did was, first of all, I added the check rails all the way along, right the way to where the turntable goes, and then I made some spacers, which is the white plastic you can see, that sit on the sleepers, and then I added a top piece which brings the height up to the top of the rails and the check rail, so that the vehicle should run fairly smoothly. Eventually that, like the rest of the roadway in this area, will have a granite set effect on top of it, which will probably have to be paper, because all the embossed plastic cards that I use everywhere else are just too thick to run the fallow vehicles over, so they're going to have to be paper. Having done that, while I was doing that and thinking more about the roadway, my piece of copper-clad board arrived. So I've started thinking about how to make the turntable, and now I'm going to go away and I'm going to make the turntable, and that will be the next thing that you see. Not only am I going to make the turntable, but I'm going to install the actuator that we saw in the last video that actually does the wagon pull, and I'm going to try and do a first time demonstration of how it all should work. So I'll be back soon. Okay, we've now made some more progress. You're looking at quite a strange view. The camera is actually on a tripod sat on the right hand baseboard. This area over here is the end of the traverser. This here is the right hand back scene, and here is the wagon turntable. The canal is down here full of rubbish. The roadway will be running along here and through there, and there will be a building here. And as you can see, I've now got the wagon turntable installed. I have had it running, but at the moment I haven't programmed it, so I can't run it at this moment. I've also got the actuator on a piece of wood here to lift it such that the actuator arm, when it comes across here, gives me adequate clearance to build a building with an arch under which the roadway will run perfectly okay. I've added some contraption onto the end of the actuator arm here, which is a piece of plastic card with a bracket, a fitting on the top, which is held on by a couple of M2.5 screws, and that goes down to a right angled fitting that I've got here, which I made just by jamming plastic card together and gluing it, and then that comes onto the spigot, which is now inserted into the sled, and this spigot here is what drives it along. And if I am very careful, hold that still because the glue is still setting under here, and I pull this, you should be able to see the action. Once again, I'm not very good at it and the turntable's not fully aligned, but that takes it back as far as I need to go, I hope. I'll just bring that forward a little again. You can see here that these rails actually hang over the sector plate, this rail and this rail, and they don't actually touch it because they have no sleepers under, and the level of the sector plate and the level of this, and hence this piece here, are the same. So the fact that there are no rails there gives me about a millimetre of clearance, no sleepers, beg your pardon, gives me about a millimetre of clearance under those rails. So the sector plate will move without any problems. Wrong way, go the other way, just hit the end stop. Right, there we go. and nothing interferes. I've been throughout the sector plates movement and it doesn't interfere with anything. I'll just bring that back to there again. So yes, it's powered up, but this is the servo on the actuator, and it's connected to nothing at this moment, so it's not going to go anywhere. Obviously this is a view you'll never get once the layout is complete, because there'll be a building that runs along here and across the front here, and a gap underneath it here and here, with an archway under there somewhere, oops, like that, where the roadway can get through, and the building will continue over here. Obviously it's got to be quite a tall building as well, because it's got to completely cover the actuator. So what I'll do now is I'll go away again, get the actuator and the turntable fired up and working, and I'll try and give you a sort of demonstration. Can't give you a full demonstration because I don't have the right couplings on the system yet, and because I don't know where to put it, I haven't installed a magnet in here to do the uncoupling. But I can give you an idea of how it will work, and you'll be able to see all of the mechanism. Hopefully when the buildings are done, you'll see almost none of the mechanism. So I'll be back to you in a trice, to me probably in a day or so. Okay, I'm back again, and I now have something that is well on its way to being a workable solution. If we take this wagon here and we assume that I push it onto the turntable with a locomotive, get it on the turntable and draw the locomotive away. Now I flick a switch on the control panel which says wagon turntable, and the wagon turns. I flick another switch on the control panel which says capstan, which simulates the capstan drive that will ultimately be used to pull the wagon along. I flick the same switch that I just used back again, and it takes the wagon into the warehouse. Now, what I can't do automatically is uncouple the wagon. So what I'm going to do is turn it round so that the wagon doesn't have a coupling on that end. So I shall reach across and just uncouple the wagon. As you can see, it has a coupling this end, which is the end I just used, but it doesn't have one this end. So I'll put the coupling there, push it back where it was in the warehouse, and now operating the same switch again, which is the capstan switch, I'll bring the wagon back out, deposit it on the turntable, take the capstan back, and this would be leaving the wagon in its uncoupled position. Turn the turntable back again using the turntable switch on the control panel, and then bring the loco along, and it obviously would have a coupling on it, and I can retract the wagon. Almost there. I've got a little bit too much slop. Let me just move the capstan and show you where that is now. You saw it capable of moving. I've got a bit too much slop here, and I'm not sure how to reduce it. Some of it comes from the servo arm, and some of it comes from my fitting of the bits and pieces. If I could reduce some of that slop, I would be well away, but at the moment I haven't got a solution to it. I have solved one problem, and that is that what I kept finding was I was doing that, shooting the wagon off the end of the turntable. I purposely did that. What I've done now is I have put a couple of little stops, so the wagon is reluctant to go back over the end. And that's very useful for when the capstan drive pushes the wagon, because it was tending always to push it off. And what I've done as a little cheat, and I hope it's not very visible, but just there between the wood and the rail, and just this side between the wood and the rail, I fitted a tiny piece of black plasticard which just acts as a stop for the wagon. It's not a hard stop, but you can just about see, if I do that, I think, the wagon hopping up and down. You can certainly hear it. Hopefully that will solve the problem of the wagon wanting to drift off the end of the turntable at the slightest touch. The thing is, these couplers, these attention lock couplings that I have on here, but the Sprat and Winkles are not a lot different in their general operation. What happens is that lifting this as it runs against the opposing coupling does do enough quite often to just get the wagon moving a little bit. And because this wagon turntable is so small, you haven't got to move the wagon much from there before it's off the end and in the canal. And that is what I was getting 90% of the time. I think I've now solved that. So, I will draw this video to a close now because it's getting rather long. And I will see you next time. So, goodbye everybody, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe, give me a like, comment if you wish, ask a few questions. I'm happy to answer anything you like, and I will see you in the next video. And of course, Huey and Lenny just had to play on the turntable.